Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. I hope you guys are waking up and feeling good out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great week out there so far. We got you the latest on Tropical Storm Erin. Erin is still forecast to become a powerful hurricane. In fact, the peak wind intensity has actually increased. So, first thing we'll go over is current conditions with this system out here in the Atlantic, sort of check in on it this morning, see how it's doing. We'll go over the latest from the National Hurricane Center. We'll cover all model guidance, and then we'll discuss the environment out ahead of this system that's going to promote, I think, a rapid pace of strengthening with Erin eventually. So we'll speak on that. Steering currents, where's this thing going to go? We'll kind of geek out with you guys there, discuss why it could go one way or the other. And then we'll talk about a couple other areas out here in the tropics we need to watch out for in the shorter term and in the longer term, kind of behind Erin, if you will. And then we'll speak on today's weather. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. Let's make sure this is going to work, and it is. So we won't stay on this very long, but this is Tropical Storm Erin. Nice cyclonic spin to it. It's entering an even better upper wind environment right now, and it's a pretty healthy tropical storm, and it's in the process of gradually strengthening. No rapid pace of strengthening right at this second, but I mean, if you look right here, you can see that kind of cyclonic circulation with this. So the actual low-level circulation is underneath the mid-level convection, which is all this action right here blowing up in the white. And if you're wondering, Mitch, why is the screen going from dark to sort of lighter? It's because quite literally the ocean is lighting up out here as the sun is rising on this portion of the ocean, which is where, Erin is. So nice cyclonic spin with this system. You can see a little bit of an outflow getting going out here. So I do think, and you can see it here too, so a little bit of air expanding out away from this system in the upper levels, and we talk about that a lot when we're speaking on that upper level pattern. So like I said, this is in the process of getting stronger. So pretty healthy tropical storm mid-grade system. So we'll move past that. The latest from the system, it is at a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm. So technically has not done much strengthening overnight, but it is looking even better, moving west at 17 miles per hour. So pretty much the same speed as when we checked in last night. So everything's about the same, except obviously it's moved a little bit further west, right? So I do want to mention this. This is Invest 98L, so has a 20% chance to develop somewhere in maybe the Western Gulf between now and the next 7 days. And I will have a little segment for this after we speak on Erin, but that's Erin right here. So let's take a look at the cone. So this is from the National Hurricane Center. It's just on a different site. This is Zoom Earth, available to you guys, to the public, for free. It's phenomenal. You can toggle through it really easily. And there's Erin obviously right here, the 50-mile-per-hour system. Forecast to become a hurricane sometime tomorrow afternoon. 2 p.m. Friday, tomorrow, saying Category 1 hurricane. And then a Category 2 100-mile-per-hour hurricane as we get into 2 a.m. Saturday. So you can tell between 2 p.m. Friday, 2 a.m. Saturday. I mean, it's a short amount of time, right? This thing strengthens a good bit. And then forecast to become a major hurricane by 2 a.m. Sunday. And then the peak intensity is now up to 125 miles per hour. So your peak forecast intensity is almost to a Category 4 hurricane now. So one thing to note here is, a couple videos back, I was mentioning how the Northern Leeward Islands and the British Virgin Islands, and it was even close to Puerto Rico, you guys were in the cone. You guys are no longer in this cone, but this could shift. Now we go over to sort of like the Turks Caicos Islands. How close is the edge of this cone? Well, it's pretty close, but you guys are technically not in this cone. And remember, this cone is where the center of the storm could go. Don't look at this as an impact zone, okay? So what I mean by that is you guys could still get some outer bands with this system, even into the Northern Leeward Islands and the British Virgin Islands. So just keep that in mind, even Puerto Rico. So that's that. Now, what about the latest Euro? We're going to start all this guidance off with Saturday. So it says SAT up here, AUG, August the 16th. And I'm just kind of pointing up there because I will forget to mention days and dates and stuff like that because I'm talking a million miles per hour, right? So starting it off, technically Saturday morning. Euro has this as a 995 millibar low. So it's technically weaker than what the National Hurricane Center thinks it'll be. And I don't know if I buy what the Euro is saying as far as strength. It's saying that Basically, if the euro is correct, it's only going to strengthen a little bit between now and the next 48 hours. And that might be the case. But so anyway, Saturday morning around northeast of the Leeward Islands. This continues into Sunday, strengthens a good bit from Saturday into Sunday. I mean, it pretty much starts to take off at this point. So 978, we got some outer bands on the southern edge of this hurricane, trying to even get into Puerto Rico, to British Virgin Islands. And then this thing begins to take kind of that northwest jog, 967 millibar low. We get into Tuesday morning, 967 too. So the euro just doesn't have this as quite as a strong hurricane as it did maybe a few runs prior. And I think it's a bit of an outlier here as far as the strength of this hurricane. And you'll see that when we go over other model guidance. But Tuesday morning, next Tuesday morning, August the 19th, it's sort of between the Bahamas, Bermuda, and the southeast coastline. But it's splitting everybody. And this continues into Wednesday. And then we get into Thursday, and it misses everybody. As you can tell, the euro is not quite as close. I would say not even remotely as close as the euro yesterday afternoon. But it's literally going right between Bermuda, which is this speck here, and the North Carolina coastline, and it doesn't even come close to the northeast. But, of course, I will show you guys up here in Atlantic, Canada. Clearly misses Nova Scotia, and just barely clips southeast Newfoundland, like the Avalon Peninsula, places like that. So it pretty much misses everybody, splits the gap between all everybody. So what about the GFS? GFS initializing much stronger when you compare it to the euro. 972 millibar low Saturday morning. We're already dealing, if this is correct, it's saying this is going to strengthen, but basically from a tropical storm to around a category 1 or 2 hurricane between now and the next 48 hours. So maybe a little too fast the strengthening, but I'm telling you, the upper wind pattern is improving right now. So I could see it happening. But we get into Sunday morning, gradually strengthens. That's a little bit of a difference, right? The euro really takes this thing off in this period, Saturday to Sunday. The GFS sort of maintains the strength of the system. But once again, the southern edge of Hurricane Erin is really close to the northern Leeward Islands, British Virgin Islands, and then this thing begins to take off in strength, begins to turn north, and we get into Wednesday morning, 938 millibar low. That is absolutely at least a category 4 hurricane. And then we take it into Thursday morning-ish, and it makes it closer past the Bermuda than, say, the southeast coastline. But let's back it up to right here. This is around next Tuesday evening, right? Let's go to the last 5 runs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you can see there's been a shift west. I don't necessarily think this is going to continue to shift west all the way into the southeast coastline. I think that it's getting more in line with the euro, which has kind of gotten a little bit more steady where this could potentially go. But it's way too close to everybody. And, it's going to be wild if this can somehow just miss everybody. Go split the gap between the Bahamas, Bermuda, the eastern coastline, and there's a solid chance it could. So same thing, we take this all the way up here. Look how dramatically this thing turns to the northeast. I mean, it almost goes east. And, with it turning that fast, of course, this is definitely going to miss. It gets close. The outer edge of the system does clip southeast Newfoundland. The thing that I'm seeing with the GFS is it looks like it almost gets picked up by a trough and then jolts it back north. So what about the icon? This is the morning icon. So has this as a pretty weak system. The icon doesn't think this is going to strengthen much between now and say the next 48 hours, but it does strengthen it pretty fast. Look how much it drifts west. Sunday morning, this thing is still moving way too far west. It's just north of Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, and it actually gets close enough to the Turks Caicos Islands to bring definitely impacts Monday morning if this is the way it plays out. But then it dramatically begins to turn north. Now, if you look at the icon from last night, man, it gets this way too close to the Bahamas. I mean, the Bahamas right into here, 946, major hurricane. And you're like, dude, you got to turn. I mean, it drops this to a 915 millibar low. One would argue that's definitely a category 5 hurricane, but dramatically turns. But listen, if you got that powerful of a hurricane off the Carolina coastline, it's going to bring some sort of impacts. whether that's beach erosion, strong waves, whatever it may be. But, we can only go 1 week out, but the icon gets this thing close. Now, what about the hurricane models? The concerning thing to me about the hurricane models is it is definitely further west. Now, hurricane models can overdo the strengthening of a tropical system, but sometimes they are dead on. Milton was a fantastic example of that last year. Anyways, Saturday morning initializes this closer to what the GFS is showing. 978 millibar low, just northeast of the Leeward Islands. Drifts this west, kind of west-northwest, deepens it, and by the time we get into about Sunday morning, has this at a Category 4 hurricane at least. Sneaking just kind of east-northeast of the Turks Caicos Islands, well north of the Greater Antilles. And then the very last few frames, it does begin to turn northwest, but getting a little bit too close for comfort to the Bahamas, Turks Caicos, and all of those areas. So we got to stop it right here. This is getting into Tuesday morning, and then we look at the HFB model. And here it goes. Same thing, kind of takes the same route, strengthens it rapidly, and then kind of maintains strength. And actually, these two hurricane models actually weaken the system as it begins to turn. So a little bit of a difference in opinion with model guidance with that for sure. But this thing has an opportunity to really take off. So what about, and we're going to go back and look at the hurricane models here in a second, but what about the ensemble guidance? Well, it's actually ticked east. So good news. Maybe not the best news for, say, Bermuda, but as we move this in motion, we start off Monday morning. Most of these members, except like literally one, which is right here, take this out to sea. But Bermuda, a lot of these members bring significant impacts to you guys. And it looks like most of the members miss, Atlantic Canada too. So clear sign to go out to sea with this. All right. Now let's geek out with you a little bit. Why does this system take off? And I'm actually going to focus on the HF, I think this is the B. Yeah, HFB model, because it is initializing dead on as far as the millibar. And this is right now. This is how strong it thinks the system is right now, which is actually dead on. It's right now, I believe it's 1,002 millibar low. So right now, it's the outflow upper winds are improving. What you can tell is, and I think this is dead on, if you look at the satellite visibility right now, it makes sense. You're seeing a lot of disbursement of air out away from the system on this side. It's kind of wrapping up like this, kind of going like that, but there is a little bit of air moving up against the storm, creating a little bit of shear on the eastern to northeastern side. So I think this system is dealing with a little bit of easterly shear, and if you look at the satellite, you can tell. And I know somebody's like, dude, you just got to get a move on, but I just really want you to show, I want to show you guys an example of this. You see how, like, this is the heart and soul of the system right here. And you can see a little glitch because the satellite is loading. So you're going to see 97 pop up really fast. But if you look at this side of the system right here, some of the convection is getting eaten up a little bit, right up against probably what is the low-level circulation, which is probably right into here. But if you look on, say, this side of the system, you can see some convection expanding out. That is because air is definitely getting dispersed out on that side of the system, creating a much better environment. So your environment's going to improve on this side too, though, in time. So just kind of wanted to show you that. Now let's get that off your screen and let's look at this again. Now watch as we move in time and watch how this number begins to drop as the upper wind pattern improves. So it drops dramatically right here. So now all of a sudden, let's just take it all the way to Saturday morning. All of a sudden, 48 hours from now, we have a sub 980 millibar hurricane. Okay, whether that's a category 1 or 2, probably a 2, that doesn't matter at this point, right? So why does the environment improve? Well, you no longer got winds working up against the system right here, like you do right now, okay, in the upper levels. And this is 200 millibars, so it's 40,000 feet up in the air. Now, the storm system itself in the low to mid levels is spinning just like this cyclonically. On top of the system, literally on top of the system, air is being expanded outward now. This system moves into a low shear environment and almost in a way creates its own environment. And it almost looks like it creates a ULAC, upper level anticyclone, which means the winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere are actually spinning in the opposite direction. So this is ventilating this system. It's pushing air outward, divergence aloft. So basically air is rising through the storm, dramatically pushes it out. This allows for more air to rise rapidly. Rising air allows for more shower and storm activity. Convection creates a moist environment. Storm systems love a moist environment. So you can see why this would improve, because air is being dispersed outward, allowing for more air to just continuously rise through the system. And you can really see how it improves here. Watch this. So it makes sense. A little bit of shear working up against the system. So some dry air right now is trying to work into the circulation. And if you just saw what I showed you here, it's eating up some of the convection right into here. But watch how the moist environment really improves around this as that upper wind environment improves. Watch how this thing sort of eventually gets fully cocooned in green, which is moist air. So all of a sudden, no real dry air is getting into the actual circulation of the system, and you have pretty much a protected moist bubble of moist air around this system, and pretty much cocooning the heart and soul of this tropical system, which is the low-level circulation. And when you do that, when you basically stack the box on top of this system, this thing is able to rapidly intensify, which is exactly what it does. So I hope that makes sense. Upper wind pattern improves, therefore this thing turns into a moist monster, right? So moving past this, what about steering currents? And I will mention another reason why it takes off is because the waters this system will enter are going to be in the upper 80s in Fahrenheit. This is in Celsius, but you convert these 29s, 30s to Fahrenheit, mid, upper 80s. Some areas might be around 90 degrees, so waters are plenty warm enough. Now, why does this get steered one way or the other? So, you know, the warmer colors you see on your screen, like in this case, a lot of the yellows, and, you know, you look up here, for example, this is the orange and reds, even in like a pinkish color. That's high pressure, a ridge. And the blue, lower pressure. So that could be a trough. That could be a tropical system, like what this is right here. It could be an upper level low. But the flow around this high pressure does like this. So it's going like this, going like that. And it's kind of cruising on top of this area like this. And I mean, there's definitely different areas of flow embedded in this high pressure depending on the strength of it. But in general, the reason this is cruising right now sort of east to west is because the flow at the bottom edge of this ridge over areas of the North Atlantic. So this is why this is moving in general this way. It's following the flow of the ridge. Now, I want you to watch what kind of happens in this area. Okay, as I put this forward and we start to get into Saturday. So you see this blue that sort of emerges out of nowhere? That is a little trough that forms. So this trough forms and weakens the ridge right into here. So you see that yellow on top of Erin, which is right here, sort of dissipate to white. That's because this trough forms, and what I think happens is it actually kind of whiplashes this ridge, probably not literally, right? But it actually weakens this ridge. Our tropical system, being strong itself because it's gaining strength, it's always going to try to find the weakness to the north. It's going to try to gain latitude. Even if you had a very strong ridge on top of it, it's still going to try to really rub up against it and try to get north. So massive weakness now created because of this trough that develops. I really think if this trough does not develop, then our ridge stays in place and this probably gets much further west. So this system is strengthening. It starts to feel that weakness. And it begins to turn north right here. Our feature, our trough that created this weakness, begins to sort of move away. This allows for kind of the bridging of the ridge again to connect. You're going to see sort of a connection between our North Atlantic ridge, our lower 48 ridge, and our lower 48 ridge and our North Atlantic ridge, which is over here. You're going to see some sort of connection with this. And this is going to try to push Erin a little bit further to the west. Not exactly in the direction I did that arrow, but further to the west. You can see how the ridge tries to build on top of it right here. Now I want you to watch the blue up here, the lower pressure, some sort of trough. It's going to try to dig down here and try to scoop up this system. So a ridge does build right in here, but it's very weak, guys. But it's enough to sort of prevent this from making a dramatic turn out, well, a dramatic turn further back out into sea. So it gets right here, gets way too close for comfort, but then it finds a weakness right in here, sort of created by a lingering trough, and then it gets picked up by this trough and slung out. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Weakness right here, system begins to try to turn north, ridge tries to build on top of the system, nudges this a little bit further to the west than we want, and just kind of prevents this from escaping too fast And then regardless, I think it has just too much forward momentum. It's so strong. It's heading north. And it kind of just squeezes between a weak area in the ridge. And I think just this trough just lingering around creates a weakness in this ridge anyways. Doesn't allow this to fully strengthen. And there's a couple other things to watch too. I do want to watch this little feature right here, this sort of dip. This could flex the ridge right here. But there's so many things to watch. But to me, there's still... You're going to need an extreme failure by model guidance in the medium term for this not to escape out to sea. But I still think this could get very close. So we'll continue to move forward here. Let's look at Invest, 98L. So it doesn't look like much on your screen. This is the Yucatan Peninsula. Remember, this has a 20% chance to develop. It's blowing up some convection this morning here in the Bay of Campeche. So I want to watch this. I think that this could do something, a little bit tricky. And I do want to take just let's look at a bigger look at this. This is it right here. Okay. I think that we need to watch this area as it continues to drift sort of northwest in time. And we need to watch Texas. We need to watch the northern Mexico coastline. Something could get going out of this. And you look at the hurricane model guidance, and it has this just making a straight line to Brownsville, Texas. So, we can easily sit here and say nothing's going to come out of this, but this is starting right now. So we get into this afternoon, you see the blob of moisture. We get into tomorrow morning, and then we get all the way into tomorrow evening. And it looks like it takes about a day and a half for it to go just off the Yucatan Peninsula and across the Western Gulf into southern Texas or northern Mexico. So we just got to watch in the next day and a half if this can do something tricky. The waters are very warm in this area, very warm. And I think another way to look at this, if we back it up to right now, again, let's look at the lower level vort. You can see a little energy here in the lower levels of the atmosphere. I mean, look at this little thing. It's going to try to do something right at the last second. You can see a little bit of a spin to it. Watch this. Little spin, and it runs out of ocean. Okay, thank goodness. But we need to watch it. It could do something sneaky. Okay. Now, moving out in time, the global tropics hazard outlook says we're probably not slowing now. This is between the 20th and the 26th. Likes the idea of another tropical wave getting going in this red color. That's a 40% chance of tropical development. And then the striped area, red and white, 20% chance. And even going beyond this, 27th through the 2nd of September. Pretty wild, getting there. About time to pull out the fall decorations, right? 20% chance of tropical development in this area in that time frame. So I just think we're going to have a lot to talk about over the coming weeks. So one thing I'm going to look at here is lower level vort, 850 millibar energy in the atmosphere. It's about 5,000 feet above the ocean out here. So this is obviously Erin, eyesore on your screen here, but I want you to kind of look out here and just kind of watch some energy, just broadly cyclonically spinning around. You got this thing right here is an open wave. One right here, spinning, doesn't really get together, and then we get past day 10, and nothing really gets going, but we just need to watch these waves. There's been some signs that these could get going. Now, what about the GFS? Same thing. You can see Erin turning on the side of your screen there. Here comes a wave. This is a wave. It's not well put together at all, but it is just kind of spinning around out there. It never gets going. And the GFS says, nah, not going to get anything going. Now, one thing that I haven't showed you is there anything in sort of the Caribbean or Gulf that gets going off this energy? No, not really. So what about the Euro AI model? Euro AI model is aggressive with these waves and takes the one, this is Erin, takes the one right behind it and tries to develop it and move it in the same area Erin is likely going to go and strengthens it. But it even curves this one. Then another wave forms behind this. The Euro AI model thinks it's going to get active. But I just think we need to watch. And if you look at the Euro ensemble, ignore this. This is Erin, what we just discussed. But watch all these L's pop up on your screen. This tells us that there is some low pressures to try to get going. And I just think that it's worth watching the Atlantic still. Nothing crazy I'm seeing. It's not enough for them, the folks in the National Hurricane Center, to put an area of interest out or anything like that. But we definitely need to watch it for sure. So moving past the tropics. Man, we've been talking that to death. Today's weather, The radar's trying to load. We got some moisture hanging out with us across the Carolinas and Georgia. Slug of moisture moving into the Midwest. And honestly, as far as active weather, I mean, that's about it. Watches, warnings, and advisories. Heat advisories in the orange. We got them from the low country of South Carolina, southeast Georgia, down the northeast and the east coast of Florida, parishes of Louisiana, counties of Oklahoma, eastern Texas, western Mississippi, southern Arkansas. We got some across Nebraska, South Dakota. It's getting dry and it's hot out here across the Central Rockies, so we do have red flag warnings. Got to be careful about any kind of wildfire, stuff like that. Storm Prediction Center outlook, there is a slight risk for our folks up here in North Dakota, Minnesota. Tornado risk is at a 2% risk. Wind threat, 15% risk of damaging winds. And the hail threat, not only do you have the 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch, you got a 10% risk of significant sized hail. So be aware of that up there today. Some big storms, Grand Forks, Fargo, and places like that. The excessive rainfall outlook, only area I'm concerned about is the Carolinas and maybe in the southeast Virginia, southern Maryland. This area right here has a 15% risk of flash flooding today, so be aware of that. And it's just because of a continuous moist flow in this area. We got a lot of storm and shower, really just rain activity out there this morning. But as we start to get into this afternoon, we see a lot of shower and storm activity across the Carolinas, even all the way up into Virginia, a little bit of activity across the Gulf coastline. But honestly, folks, this is just kind of normal late summer activity, not really driven by any significant thing in the atmosphere, that's for sure. Northeast today, could have some storms that develop in southeast Mass, maybe a little bit of action, coastal areas of Maine, low country of Maine, and maybe New Hampshire. A little bit of storm action, as you can tell, in the mid-Atlantic, sort of Delaware, Tidewater area, Virginia, but nothing too crazy as far as active weather, super active weather. A lot of downpour activity dancing along the Texas coastline this morning, but then just some spotty activity in Texas and surrounding states. Not a whole lot to speak on. North Central U.S., just watch these storms develop. Kind of develop up here in this area today. But I really think these don't get going until later tonight. This is 04Z Friday. So, I mean, this is like 10, 11 o'clock tonight. So if you live up here in the northern terrain of Minnesota, especially northwestern areas, watch out for some big-time boomers late tonight. So there ain't a whole lot to show you, though. There's a slight risk up there, but not a whole lot to show you on the map. Then the western U.S. Honestly, you got the red flag warnings across the Central Rockies, but it does look like you get a little bit of moisture today. So hopefully this can moisten some things up, get you some good rain. But, Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, Arizona, you guys could get some showers, some downpours, and then just more of a soaker moving in late tonight across the Pacific Northwest, Northwestern, and Western Washington state. Temperatures, folks, just about most of the country is pretty warm. I mean, yeah. So, hey guys, just want to say I apologize for not getting my devotion in. The goal right now, and I absolutely love the feedback from the devotion. I haven't had pretty much nothing but positive feedback from the devotions. My goal is to do 4 a week, and my goal is to do them Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. But obviously, this is going to be the second day in a row where I'm not going to get it in. I don't want anybody to think that I'm going to push that back just because the weather's getting busy. That is a priority, but right now, 4 is what I do because I'm human. I need rest days, for sure. So, basically what I mean by that is in my normal routine, like 4 or 5 days out a week, I wake up at 3:30 in the morning and I go to bed at around 8:30 at night. So kind of a really, really early riser and a really early going to bed person. So, those mornings where I wake up at, say, 5 a.m., 5:15, like this morning, I literally do not have time to spend the time that I want in a devotion to feed you guys, obviously, the scripture and the information and just talk on it, right? So I never want to rush through those. So that's why I don't have it this morning. My soccer schedule's been kind of weird. Tuesday soccer practice got canceled, so I had to do it last night. And because I had to do it last night, I'm an assistant coach for my older girls team, and I'm a head coach in my younger girls team. And the head coach of my older girls team, he couldn't make it last night because they had to reschedule. And I had to basically be a head coach for 2 soccer teams for about 2.5 hours straight. So I came on last night exhausted, and I knew I wasn't going to get up this morning. So what I was saying is I slept in because I was just absolutely wore out. So I got you a devotion tomorrow morning. I got you one hopefully Saturday or Sunday morning. But the goal right now is to do 4. And I do hope to work it to where I can do every morning of the week. So just don't want you guys to think that, well, this guy's more, obsessed about, just getting the weather and wants to just kind of put speaking about the devotion sort of on the back burner. That's not the case. Trust me, it's not. Just when it gets like this, guys, I'm basically burning it at all ends. And it's tough. It's going to be tough to manage. I work a full-time job. And I'm not trying to say woe is me, guys, but I just want you to explain. I want you guys to understand how crazy and busy life is for me right now. School just started. My wife's a school teacher. I work a full-time job outside of this. I'm doing these 2 videos a day. I try to keep my body in top condition. I take my health and physical fitness very serious, very involved in many things. Got soccer. So just trying to grind out there. But I appreciate the support. Love you guys. I did catch the thumbnail error last night. My wife, that's the first thing she said to me when I woke up this morning is, yeah, you spelled 2 wrong in that situation. And man, I was like, that's embarrassing. That just tells you how tired I was last night. So I wasn't paying attention to detail there. So I also want to note that my dog, Copper, he sat right beside me the entire time and did not make one noise. He's a good boy. I wish I could tilt my camera and show you him without just totally messing up my camera feed. But man, I've been jabbering for about 5 minutes now. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day, and we'll do it again tonight.